This is the Lockpicker 1969, and welcome to my channel, and welcome to this next episode of Interview with a Lockpicker. Today's guest is Paracentric. Say hi, Paracentric.
Hello, world. Little
So,
programming here.
so how and when did you get into locksport?
Oh my gosh, I've had time to think about this since we did the pre-interview, and it's still kind of blurry to me because it was so long ago. Um, I'm not even sure when they started using the word lock sport, but um, when I started, there was no lock sport. There was no YouTube. Um, Probably in the getting back to the late '90s, somewhere in there. I remember just being fascinated by lockpicking. And at that time, I was kind of obsessed with trying to get things online that you weren't necessarily supposed to have, like lockpicks.
Yep.
Yeah, so it was right at the infancy of what they called e-commerce at the time.
Yep.
Um,
Yep. I remember that.
yeah, there were some places I don't remember the sites that had lockpicks. I think some of the lockpicks that were available were by HPC.
Yeah.
And I remember going through and picking out stuff and throwing it in the cart, and then like getting to the checkout page, it's like, you must produce a locksmith license, or we will not sell you.
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
oh man, no. And then one time just finally stumbled upon Southort's site, and they're like, "Hey, come on in. What do you want? You want three of those? No problem." You
Yep.
know. So Um, I don't remember their selection was too deep, but they had sets and individual picks, and certainly not the selection we have today. But I purchased it's right here actually, the MPXS 20 set, which I still have to this day.
Okay.
Broken some of those picks along the way, and replaced them, supplemented them with some of the newer picks that they offered in the last
Mm-hmm.
couple of years. But that's how I kind of got started into it. And one of the things I bought, that not sure why I bought it, were those cool looking double-sided wafer lock picks. Um, Man, what am I gonna do with
You
these?
talking about the snowman picks?
Um, well, they're double-sided, they're double pronged.
Oh, okay. For automotive.
Yeah, but I didn't have automotive locks to work on back then.
Yeah.
At but, it was like, hey, I can buy it, so I'm gonna buy it. I'll take that.
Yep.
And then, right around that same time, it was late '90s. Then there was we can talk about work in a minute, but the internet crash of 2000,
Yep.
when
Yep.
yeah, everything crashed and everybody lost their jobs. I was one of those, and so I found another way to supplement the income by going on eBay, selling coins and collectibles and things like that. Some of the things that I had amassed at that time was like, I'll go anywhere and buy anything if I can make a buck on it.
Yep.
And that included a lot of old vintage bubblegum machines, those old, double-sided wafer locks. Like, whoa, hey, these fit.
Hey. Yep.
Found a use for them. So, didn't take too long to pick through all three of my gumball machines, but yeah, at least they got used.
Yep. So you mentioned before when we did our pre-interview about how you got going and studying locksmithing. Can you go into that a bit?
Oh yeah, that was kind of that crossroads after the crash of 2000. Didn't know really what I wanted to do. I had always had an interest in locks and lock picking and puzzles, and so I picked up the big book on locksmithing, and just getting into that. I was like, oh man, this is hard. They don't do a lot of lock picking,
Hmm.
and yeah, so that kind of died on the vine.
Oh,
But at
okay.
least in the locks continued, and the eBay thing continued for a while, and then it got busy when I started having to take care of my kids. First one was born in 2003, and then again in 2005. So I was kind of full time at home,
Yeah.
and
You had your
yeah,
kids about the same years I did.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Pushing one in a stroller and got one strapped to my
Uh-huh.
chest,
Yep.
yarn. Walking down the street, chewing on Fritos. Um,
Yep.
so at that time I was still, no, actually at that time, 2003, 2005, when the kids were born, I had to tank my eBay business because it was just I couldn't do both. It
Yeah.
was just too big. And we stumbled along just trying to get by on one income, here living in an apartment.
Hmm.
And then eventually we moved because we had to get out of the apartment. It was only a two-bedroom apartment, so we had one of the kids in the bedroom with us. It's like this isn't going to last for too long.
Yeah,
Uh,
what we found, my wife did the eBay thing and Etsy and all that and sold stuff online for a while. And what we found was there just isn't a lot of meat left on the bone to profit from after you've paid shipping and handling and commission fees and taxes, and there's just not a lot left and still be competitive. So,
yeah, I
yeah.
think that's certainly the case still these days.
Oh yeah.
Back then it was very lucrative.
Yep.
Um, it was still new, and people would swallow up everything you had. It was great for a while. Um, yeah, but then had to give that up. Time to put on the big boy pants, take care of the kids, and
Yeah.
figure
Yeah.
out what you're going to do.
So
You know,
you got away from lockpicking for a while, but when was that?
that was probably early 2000s, right in there. I can't be exact because so long ago it was kind of blurry. Still, um,
So some time
but
went by, and then when did you get back into it again to the point you're at now?
yeah, well, we moved out of the house, or sorry, we moved out of the apartment, moved into this house in around 2008, and it rekindled my interest a little bit because we moved and I found the box with my locks and the picks, and the neighbor down the street who ended up being my best friend and my boss and everything now the last 14 years, he also had an interest in lockpicking, and he also had the same exact Southord MPXX 20 set, which he was only able to find on one site that would sell to him.
Yeah.
So while we got back into it for a little bit, but then it got busy because he said, "Oh, you're a programmer? You want a job?" So that got me back into working, doing the tech stuff, and but then took a long, long break. Uh, you know, like most people, until about 2020.
Yeah.
Pandemic when
Yeah.
down, everybody's looking for something to do, so you don't lose your mind because there's nothing else to do. So that's when that started back up, about 2020, early 2020.
Okay, so you get started back into it in 2020. I am going to make the assumption that you do or did a lot of what a lot of people did and turn to YouTube. If you did turn to YouTube, who were some of your biggest influences that really got you rolling again?
Ironically, I wasn't very big into YouTube.
Hmm.
It'd been going for well over a decade, and people are, always talking about YouTube, YouTube this, YouTube that. And I started to go in there. It's like, wow, there's all kinds of stuff here. And then an LPL video came across my feed. I was like, what? What? Okay, so I started watching those, and like, wait, I got pics here somewhere. And of course, I failed miserably, because he's so refined.
Yeah.
But then started watching more, and then more lockpickers started coming across my feed, and that's when I discovered Bosnian Bill. I gravitated a little more towards Bosnian Bill because he seemed a little more blue collar.
Yeah.
Not
Explained things a little better too. I feel.
yeah, not as refined, not afraid to fail.
Yeah. That was what was refreshing.
Yeah, it was very endearing to me because I was failing all the time, and it made me not feel as bad.
Yeah. So okay. So at some point in your journey, though, you got into challenge locks. Can you talk about that a bit?
But that's kind of taken a back seat lately. Yeah, as I had branched out and started watching more locksporters on YouTube, I came across this interesting individual named Jay Gabriel.
Yep.
And at that time, he was doing a giveaway, or actually, he called it a donation at the time. And he put some names into a hat. He was giving away these amazing uh, challenge lock starter kits, if you will.
Yeah.
And I was, yeah, and I was
Yep.
the second name on out of the hat. I was like, again, I was like, what? I never win anything. Are you kidding me? And then I get this giant box that's just full of everything you could ever possibly need. You know, a mini lathe
Oh,
and blades to carve and uh, drill bits and things for threading chambers and calipers and oh my gosh, I can't even remember everything that was in there. There was a handmade lockpick set from Killer Maru in there.
wow.
Uh, Brass tubing, pins. It was just the most unbelievable thing anybody's ever sent me.
I
So I
would
got,
imagine.
oh my gosh, I was just blown away,
He's
just
a
blown.
very generous person. I can attest to that myself as well.
Absolutely. So it didn't take long where I started, I got a hold of, more long brass leg pans and just started to see what I could do with it, and I banged out, 50, 60, 70 pins, they weren't intended for any kind of lock or anything, because, some of them, weren't practical from a challenge lock point of view. But I just wanted to see what I could do. And man, I had a great time with it. A lot of those times the pin would almost carve itself. You just turn
Yeah.
the pin, turn the carver one way, and it just starts to go, and then it just starts to evolve and shape, and like, oh, that looks cool. Maybe I would just put an extra serration here. So that's what started my interest in that. And not
So
too long ago, I did. Okay, go ahead.
now I was going to ask you. So, what kind of tools are you using to do your like really fine serrations?
There are these blades that come from Microtech. Jay had included some in there. I guess it'd be more like just like a hobby blade. It's kind of like a double-sided razor blade,
Oh,
and
okay.
it fits on a handle, a wooden handle,
Okay.
and blades were 5 thousandths
Wow.
on the width. So you could put some really fine serrations, and of course I messed around with it. I bought a second handle, and I stacked 5 of those blades together, so you could put a nice 25 thousandths
Cool.
size serrations in there. Oh yeah, try and get these guys hung up.
Because I've been using just a jeweler's saw.
Oh yeah, that's another way to do it. I
Yeah.
remember seeing, I think it was Lock Cracking in his early videos that used a jeweler's saw.
Yep. They work really
But
well, especially for really fine serrations that you want to have a bunch of them close together, like you would see in a manufactured serrated pin. And then
right.
I'd also use that same jeweler saw to cut free my pin when I was done working on it to the final length I wanted it to be. So
Oh yeah, yeah. I'd actually accidentally cut through some of those pins because I held that thing on there too long.
yes, you can do that for sure.
Oh, well, that's a nice little short pin. We'll just buff that little tip off it.
Yep.
We're gonna keep that one.
So
But
how many challenge locks did you get into once you got all that stuff?
well, I started to make one um, not too long ago, and it was this original vintage Corbin um, rim cylinder because I had bought a bunch of those from some retiring locksmith, and I had gotten in there and I had just tried to retrofit them because at that time it was too cold to go outside and carve up new pins. So I was just trying to retrofit some of those pins that I had made into the lock, and I'd gone in there and tested them one pin stack at a time, and they worked
Mhm.
fantastic. And
Yep.
then, when I put all 6 of them in there, just didn't work. So I got to get back to that. Maybe some of those are just a little bit too long.
Was it an issue with the key or the actual pin stacks?
Well, the key well, I would test them the individual pin stacks with the key, and it worked just fine.
Hmm.
Um, so I assume maybe just some of the when you put them all in there, they just didn't fit quite right. Maybe some of them were just a little too long because the key wouldn't.
Yeah.
If it would turn, it would be super crunchy, or it wouldn't turn, and then it would turn a little bit, and then it wouldn't turn again.
Okay. Well, can't say I haven't run into that too when I was playing with them. That and I those what do they call those 3D printed little holders that you can put your cores in, but you can also then turn the core in that holder, and if it's a tight enough fit, you can get a general feel if your pin stack's too high because it'll get stuck. It won't turn. If it's too low, you're not going to see that. But anyway.
Right. I imagine some of them were a little bit too tall. So, but it's been pretty busy recently. So I'm hoping to get back to that soon because I am in this for the long haul.
Mm-hmm.
And over the last year, since receiving that package from Jay, I've just kind of been a bottom feeder and gone and probably purchased at least 150, mortises and rim cylinders and kicks.
Where
From people.
where do you get yours?
Almost all of those were from eBay.
Yep.
I'm kind of like a truffle pig. I'm able to sniff those things out. And
You and me both.
Yeah, where they're getting rid of the stuff cheap,
Yeah.
25 cores for, like $75 plus shipping or something like that.
Yeah. Or entire cylinders with housing or cylinders with the cores. You just need to go and buy your own blanks. And heck, I get all my blanks from CLK Supplies. So whenever I would buy a lot of these cylinders, I would just make sure I knew from the person I was buying from what keyway is that. And then in advance, once you actually got the eBay purchase done, then just place an immediate order with CLK Supplies for that keyway so that I had a bunch of them on hand for when I do get around to making the challenge locks out of them. So, yeah, there's a lot of key blanks and cylinders sitting in boxes and bags just waiting to have me get off my butt and work on some. So,
here, I've got boxes of them.
Uh-huh.
I've got some stashed in the office, some stashed in the back closet, some stashed in the bedroom.
I'm right there with you.
Yeah, if my wife saw all those, she'd like, what? What? So it's just a matter of keeping the peace. So
yeah, no, I can't. I give my wife complete credit. She's exceptionally supportive of the hobby. Never, given me any grief about it whatsoever. So I feel fortunate in that respect. But
yeah, same here. But at the same time, you don't want to go poking the bear.
No.
Unnecessary.
But so back to so what is your main focus right now in locksport? Since challenge locks are something you're going to go back to, what is your focus though today?
Primarily just picking and trying to keep my skills up and trying to progress a little bit when I can. I'm usually doing most of the middle of the road stuff. Up to, I don't know, maybe blue belt-ish type of stuff.
Okay.
I guess the hardest stock lock I've gotten into so far is probably the Packlocks 98 Pros. I did manage to earn that patch, which was a surprise to me at the time. But,
Yep.
When that seventh pin goes, you're like, oh,
yes! Yeah. Yep. Okay.
Then, you're like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah, nobody can appreciate it in your household. So you're out there a bit in the community. What's your experience been like in the community, and how do you feel the community? I mean, you got into or interested in lockpicking before there even was a community, from the sound of it. So you have been around to see the before and now. What's that been like?
It's hard to compare back then to now because like you said, there was no community. But if you liken it to like a team sport or something, because when you're coming into some types of team sports, they're like, oh, you're no good, you're never going to be good, you're never going to amount to anything. Oh my God, this lock sport is just the polar opposite. Um, People just welcome you with open arms.
Yeah.
You get to know people and establish some trust. Stuff starts going back and forth. You're receiving packages and challenge locks, or they'll send you locks they're not using anymore. People are so willing to help someone out.
Yeah.
And,
definitely.
It's just almost like it's not real. Is what it is.
For me, I've had so much experience in different online communities, and the trolls and the trash talk and just the very, what do you want to call, toxic communities I've had the unfortunate experience of being involved in. But when I did get to the lockpicking community, they were so helpful, welcoming, encouraging, that, what I really wanted to do with my channel was help and give back, which is what I've been trying to do since I started this channel. So,
yeah, generous is one of the most key words here. Generous with their time.
Yeah, definitely.
And materials and knowledge. Unprecedented in my experience.
Yeah.
That's why I want to, hang around and do this until I can't do it anymore.
Yeah. Agree with you 100%. So, last question before we wrap up. Do you have any hobbies outside of locksport and eBay?
Other than eBay, I haven't done eBay in a while. But yeah, there's a couple. I'm an avid bowler, and bowling a league on Monday nights. That helps with my mental health. Get out of the house once in a while. And it's been 6-7 years now. I also hold a 2nd degree black belt in Taekwondo.
Oh, wow. Okay. So what was the path to get to that like?
Painful.
Okay.
Painful, because I didn't start that till I didn't start martial arts till I was about 46.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I got then I got the first black belt around just before 50.
Okay. Wow. All right. So before I wrap it up, is there anything you'd like to say to our audience?
It's actually maybe just a quick sentence of all the things you can be in the world, be kind.
I agree with that 100%. I want to say thank you. This has been great. I've enjoyed this, and I've enjoyed getting to know you tremendously. We had a long talk before we even started recording this interview, and that was nice to be able to just talk to another person about something completely not related to locksport. So without further ado, I want to thank everybody for tuning in and listening. Hope you enjoyed this interview. If you are currently a subscriber, thank you. If you are not yet a subscriber, please hit that subscribe button. Hit like on the video one way or the other, and turn on notifications and all so that you can be made aware of content like this, as well as giveaways and the drawings for those giveaways. And with that, take care.